Okay, so I'm breaking in my new vlogging camera and I'm just going to walk around, talk to myself. People in my neighborhood are used to seeing me talk to myself, so now I'm doing it with a camera, so I'm legit. I would describe Bloomington, Indiana as a collection of cul-de-sacs joined together by discontinuous state highways. My neighborhood is a very good example of that. I've had no less than 3 near-death experiences on the streets of Bloomington, Indiana. Today I'm going to share with you the last of these. The other 2 will be subjects for later videos. If you walk a lot as a pedestrian, you can expect to meet with a near-death experience on average about once every 10 years. That's been my average. You're always safer riding in a car. This is 3rd Street. On this side is Rose Hill Cemetery, and on this side is what I call Dead Man's Gulch. This street is kind of typical of my experience on this side of town. You kind of walk into a street and you're kind of trapped. There's no way out. There's no outlet. I was walking down this way. It was back during COVID lockdown, June of 2020. A truck approached from this direction. That apartment building right there had not yet been finished. And the truck came down this way and snagged these power lines and pulled down every single telephone pole in a matter of seconds. I was standing right about here where that telephone pole is. When I saw the truck, he went this way, pulled in down here, and I had no time to react. I ended up running against that wall right there for dear life. The sky above my head was a sea of plasmic electricity. This right here is the only thing that's left of that incident. This is where a telephone pole came down. It's the only evidence left. Everything else about this incident was cleared away in 24 hours, as if it never happened. Now, the last time I tried to go into Rose Hill Cemetery, which is down there at the side of the wall, groundspeople were mowing the grass. Okay, here I am again at the side entrance of Rose Hill Cemetery. Today there are no weed whackers out here. So I've started this walking vlog with my new vlogging camera, in part because I'm just not generating that much new content these days. I have been busy for the past year turning my first novel into a podcast. With the art and music and audio and video, it's going to take over a year to put it together. And once I have it all put together, I intend to keep another vlog where I'll be walking through locations in Bloomington that inspired the pages of my story. I will start releasing episodes when I reach the halfway point in production, and that will be very soon. There was a huge pine tree sitting between these 2 pine trees that was knocked over by the straight line winds that came through Bloomington last year. And it did some serious damage to headstones, but it looks like they've mostly repaired those. Here are the main gates of Rose Hill Cemetery. We are in Prospect Hill, but I want to share with you the most famous resident of this graveyard. One of the reasons why I love graveyards and why I love this graveyard is I always feel like I'm walking among friends. There again are the apartment buildings you can see down there on my side of the hill. That hill over there, I think is called Landmark, but I just call it the far west side. These are the plots of the Carmichael family right Here is the grave of Hoagy Carmichael, the famous composer and film actor from the golden age of Hollywood. He wrote Stardust, which is arguably one of the greatest standards, American standards ever written.
When I entered this graveyard, there were only 2 ways to enter, and 3 if you chose to crawl over this wall, which was my intent on leaving. Unbeknownst to me, a 3rd passageway had been built in the past year on the west side. When you take up a camera to tell one story, often another, more interesting story emerges. It is apropos that no less than 2 propeller airplanes flew over my head at the graveyard yesterday. I had a nightmare later that day in which I was having trouble falling asleep. My mother, who has been deceased for 12 years, came tickling my feet to wake me. She wanted to show me something important. An exterior door was at the foot of my bed. The layout of the house was the sort of squatty duplex we used to live in when I was a boy in Arkansas. She opened this door, which had no screen door or stoop. I was immediately cold from the chill. The dark yard was perhaps a graveyard. I could hear a loud prop plane overhead and was fearful to venture outside with my mother. An eerie light kept dipping down into the yard every time this hovering craft would swoop over the house. It was not a plane, but something else. I retreated back to the kitchen, wishing only we had never moved from Memphis, Tennessee. Like the near-death experience I discuss, and the discovery of the unknown 3rd passage out of the graveyard, I feel like God is constantly having a conversation with me. While I was writing my first novel, events in its pages kept leaping out into real life. And during the time of writing this novel, I was working out my relationship with God in terms of what I believed and what I understood. Perhaps this new vlog will be a continuation of that evolving conversation. I failed to mention that when we first moved to Memphis in 1966 during the summer, we lived in a small house on Given Avenue, just off Stratford Road. One morning in winter, my mother woke me to tell me there was no school that day due to a big snowstorm, which is rare for Memphis. We had recently received a poodle puppy from my grandmother. We named her Snowflake. She sat waist high in the snow, not sure what to make of it. It was a happy childhood memory. In the nightmare I had last night, my mother's last dog, which outlived her by a number of years, went out into the dark yard with her, but failed to return inside. Like a night sky filled with menacing lights, a pet roaming around outside at night is another theme in my nightmares. This recurring theme, however, is taken up in my 2nd novel, which will be subject for another series of podcasts.
Okay, back into the building.